Hey everybody, how you doing? How you feeling? Welcome to the show. Um, I may have started this at the wrong time. I think there's about to be a thunderstorm to hit us. A storm is a brewing. Anyways, I thought I might do a little video real quick. Feeling particularly positive and nice today. And if you hear something that sounds like what it would be if the Tin Man was having sex, rough kink sex with somebody else in the background. That is the destruction of a building back here, a government building here in Raleigh. I'm here at the Art Museum, this little table. I like to come sit here in the afternoons and chill out. Today I'm doing a bit of drawing. I don't know if you can really see that too well, but it's going to be a Deadpool and Dogpool piece from, the new movie or whatever, Deadpool and Wolverine, which was fucking amazing. All three Deadpools were just beyond what I ever expected anybody to ever do with the franchise or the character or the intellectual property. May try to finish this one up, but since I'm homeless, preserving work is very hard, as you can see. This sketchbook has gotten wet in my bag, a little wet from rain and stuff like that. Yeah, I can't tell if that's thunder or the beating of the destruction over there, but either way, we're going to try to do a video and get this done quickly. Um, so yeah, today's topic, I guess, or discussion is, you know, basically, I'm probably going to title this video "Be Someone's Little Light in the Dark." Um, so as you know, or may not know if you watch my content, or if you look through my past videos, I've been dealing with homelessness for since basically the beginning of the pandemic, and essentially, uh, I've made it this far over the last years of dealing with this off and on, just because of some very special people in my life. Now, I did another video recently where I was talking about my cousin who basically was one of the few people in my life who destroyed love and caring for me. And I've had to work over the last couple of years to kind of rebuild that, destroyed the fabric of trust and stuff like that. Um, but over the years, it's been a lot easier to do that because of very few good people in my life, handful of people. The world is full of primarily, especially America, is full of primarily predators and just capitalists and people trying to get that money, people trying to fucking get ahead, whether they cut your throat or not, etc. A lot of snakes in the grass, but there's a lot of good people too. But those good people are hard to find. And when you do find them, hold on for dear life because great people in this world, good people who love you, take care of you, want to see you succeed and come up, just like they come up, are very rare. Now, in a country full of churches and Christian thoughts and good Christian feelings, that's kind of irregular and odd, but here we are. That's the state of things as it is in America now. Um, but I just want to, say that to whoever's watching this, and kind of not really beg you, but really emphasize to go out there today and be just a little light. And that's why I say it's a little light. I mean, it doesn't have to be massive, grand gestures that change the world for the better. It's little things, little instances of kindness, love, charity, brotherhood, sisterhood, um, will repair the fabric ultimately of American society. Um, and a lot of where we got to today is because of capitalist, things that I may try to illustrate or work on in the future of really nailing it down to a term. But the capitalist sickness is just, money over everything. Got to get that money, and if I just have to cut everybody up and destroy everyone in the process, so be it. Now, with that being said, it ain't just exclusively capitalism's part. Cruelty is paid forward. I'm not, trigger warning. I am about to mention, child sexual abuse, but I mean that is kind of like the thing with child sexual abuse, and how they believe a lot of predators, pedophiles become pedophiles, is they were abused as children, and the cycle they continue to cycle. That it becomes in them, and as you know, and I don't know if you ever learned this, but a lot of fetishes or sexual preferences and things like that, especially fetish kind of things, develop in us from a very, very early age and get hardwired at a very, very early age. For example, I read an article a long time ago about, for some reason, it was just curious to me, foot fetish. And it was a person who had a foot fetish, and they said that they remembered, where it started was them being under the table looking at their mother and their friend's feet as a child. And then later on, they found out that was their thing. And just like with those child predators, the cycle begins there and then it continues to adulthood. And that's with all cruelty, that's with all scars, that's with all pain. I felt like most of, if not majority of it, is people trying to pass that pain on, pass that, what happened to them on. Somebody hurt me, I'm going to hurt somebody in the future. Some people never get out of that mentality. Some people never get out of that, kind of feeling of helplessness and what have you. But, for the most part, like I said, just, the world doesn't change through massive movements. It changes through little things every day. And you can break the cycles of predation and pain and hurt and stuff like that through those things. And I'm living example and proof. I had a lot of anger and rage years ago that was consuming me, and it took a long time to kind of get over that. And it got over it because of, like I said, just a few couple of lights in my life, a few couple of select people out of the vast majority of garbage human beings I've met, mind you. And my world got destroyed because of select few people that I put trust and love in. Something else you ought to become aware of and you ought to look up into is some dialogue from CIA operatives who basically sit there and talk about everybody leads like 4 different lives. You have your public life, your personal life, your really secret life, and then basically the thing above the public life, the persona, the image, the mask that you wear that you want everybody to believe. And everybody does it. Consciously or unconsciously, whether that's just society is organized or what, that's just how it happens. But a lot of people end up going into that personal life or that secret life, and they stay there. And that kind of becomes the routine. But it's very interesting if you ever look that up. I mean, and it's something, like I said, that they have. I watched a program or watched a little video about this guy from the CIA. He was talking about that, and it kind of just put everything into perspective for me. So, and that's why you ought to look at the layers and really kind of assess what you're dealing with people. Because see, the shit you see out in public, that ain't necessarily them. And some people live real, and some people live, their public life is who they are and genuine. But a lot of people is just a mask, especially in a society where if a person is genuine or sincere in their beliefs, they can lose everything because of it. If they go out there and make a statement about being with minorities or black people or anything else, they can lose their job, they could lose friends, they could lose promotions. I mean, and it still exists. And that's why I guess it even segues into this, is that's why we're kind of in this whole era of the shit we got running this country and the shit that's going on right now, is because people got fooled into that. They believe that public life is the private life. And anybody, that couldn't necessarily even be the case because of the fact of the pervasiveness of, what has become the corporate neo-Nazi in America, the corporate hate mongers in America, which is basically what the far right of this country is basically a revamped, revitalized, remarketed neo-Nazi campaign. Everything that they wanted years ago, I've said this a million times before, but I'll say it again. Everything that they wanted fucking years ago is all the mandates of the far right now. That's exactly what they wanted to happen. And as a matter of fact, once again, I'll say this. If you want to look up, where exactly it started, it was a place called Ruby Ridge. Ruby Ridge was where the neo-Nazi fundamentalist movement switched gears from going out there screaming at people, yelling at people, to being underground and subversive and masking who they were. They realized that this whole marching around in street corners and all that shit wasn't getting stuff done as close as, being like everybody else. And they've managed to infiltrate every aspect of American culture, from the police to the government to all these people, through this guise. And they're now influencing American policy. They're now, that's one thing for a bunch of these loudmouth assholes to be out there shouting on a fucking street corner somewhere. But it's a whole different thing when they're literally sitting there dictating your American policies. And a couple of years ago, it was like, all right, Trump's going to do some dumb shit or try to do some dumb shit, and people blocked him, But now it's like the goddamn government's so corrupted and so polluted with lobbyists and special interests, is to where now literally money makes them do anything. And that's on both sides of the party. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, Democrats aren't in that fucking boat too, which they are. And that's the pervasive problem we all got right now, and we got to figure the fuck out, is getting lobbyist money out of Washington. That's the biggest thing, okay? And I don't know exactly how we're going to do that, but it needs to be done for sure, because basically billionaires are buying and selling our laws and our government, whatever. And through that, they have become far-right sympathizers. And whether they know it or not, like I said, with the whole immigration thing right now, which is a travesty and fucking disgusting, it's becoming very quickly and dissolving into chaos, as it were. And I don't think anybody in America is surprised by this garbage, because, for God's sakes, once again, we're talking about a man who should have never been allowed on the goddamn grounds of the White House, period, point blank, period. He tried to lead an insurrection, a coup, once again, which is, by law, treason. By law should be punishable by death. But yet here we are. The motherfucker's running the country. He's immune from prosecution. The Democrats are going out here and, we're going to try a little impeachment game again. It's like, why the fuck are you even bothering with that horse shit? Because it isn't going to work. It isn't going to pass through. I said it before about the former impeachment. I think that they were doing that so they weren't dragged out in the streets and butchered with the far right for not doing enough. I think that was their kind of safety blanket, to where they're like, hey, look, we tried to impeach him. We tried to do this. We tried to be blah, 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 blah. But the Democrats are blind and ignorant to the working class, period. And, Kamala Harris's campaign and her whole movement, which I really did like her strength and her poise and her composure as, a potential female president. But it felt like they kind of sold her under the bus, or you could see where, in the whole Biden administration period, that whole thing was just like, they're not really fucking waking up. Now, Bernie Sanders, on the other hand, is out there screaming at them every day, this is what's going on with your country. Rental prices are getting so high to where nobody can afford to live comfortably anymore. The fucking working class is sitting there not getting paid enough. Period. Point blank, period. Like I said, the median income, the median estimates for living anywhere near comfortable in America right now is starting $20 a fucking hour. But yet here we are at, we'll give you 15. We'll give you 15. And, when you get 16, guess what? You get bumped into a new tax bracket. So you don't get more money on your taxes back. You actually pay more in taxes. But there's a thin line between $13 an hour, $14 an hour, and $15 an hour. I learned that a hard way a couple of years ago when I got, a job, and it was like, I was getting $15.50 an hour. I'm like, cool, this is pretty good, 40 hours a week, whatever. Then you go out there and fucking work that shit, and it's like, wow, this isn't much more than I was making at this other job, because that's when you start getting your ass ate up in taxes. And God knows if you get overtime at these fucking jobs, because that overtime, you might as well not even work it at some point, because it's like you're go ahead and open up the tax door, so you might end up actually making less on your paycheck working 20 hours of overtime than you did before you even worked the overtime, which doesn't make a bit of goddamn sense. But hey, that's what happens when you have a completely corrupted democratic system from the top to the bottom. And that's what I'm saying. It would be one thing, and some of these town halls you ought to really look up with some of these damn district managers and the lower hanging fruit of the Republican, right wing militia. There was this town hall recently where was this old dude who was sitting there, and he was meeting with his constituents. He was meeting with his supporters. These were Republican voters who were sitting in this damn room and asking the guy, well, what about this dude who got deported to Venezuela? And he's like, and they were like grilling him on it. They were like, what about this dude, man? He's an American citizen. He just got sent to, and if you never looked this place up, it is literally hell on earth. It is a cage where they keep, each cell is 80 men to a damn cell. It's like big warehouse compounds, and the president of Venezuela or the whatever said of this prison, if you go there, the only way you're leaving is in a coffin. That's it. It's a place where they go send the worst of the worst, or what they claim is the worst of the worst, to die. It is a human dungeon, a cage to die in. That's all it is. It's not a prison. It's not to reform people. It's to kill people. And yet here we are taking American citizens, legal tax-paying American citizens who went through their due process, we're shipping them down there. And the whole case of that is a travesty. And then you got these damn Democrats going down there on a fucking plane. They're like, well, we went and ate some lunch with him and had this, and we're trying real hard to get him back. Well, I mean, go down there with a couple of National Guard dudes carrying a fucking M16 dude and say, hey, guess what? We're taking this motherfucker out of here. Get his ass in an Uber and drive the motherfucker out of there. Why is this so hard? That's because they're corrupted too. I mean, they're pieces of shit too. And I mean, maybe not all of them, but the vast majority of them are, and make no mistake, there's Republicans who are voting against this as well. And I'll tell you one Republican that I do stand behind who was speaking sense to me, and I would never have guessed it because her dad was kind of a piece of shit, but Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney was one of the people who was coming out before Trump was reelected, and she was like, we need to start getting back to the middle in this fucking country, and we need to start figuring out how to get these, fanatical policies out of here. This bullshit of, taking away the rights of people and blah, 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 and this militant ideology, from the right. And she's a Republican, and she's sitting there saying, basically, I will not, and she went out and supported Kamala Harris. She's like, I will vote for this as opposed to this garbage, and she all but called the guy fucking an idiot. And that's Dick Cheney's daughter, dude. I mean, come on now. Dick Cheney, Halliburton, let's create a war to get billions of dollars off the back end of that through government spending. And his daughter is like one of the most reasonable and sane, voices in all of the government landscape right now. And that's kind of just, and as she was speaking these things and saying this and eloquently spoken and coming out and saying, reasonable, sane, intelligent arguments, she was thrown down into the gutter because, of course, we love our Trump. We love our money man. We love our little orange monkey playing in the White House, right? We love, he was on some fucking TV show and blah, 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 blah. Once again, completely throwing away the fact that the man tried to lead an army to take over, the government and his supporters. And, of course, he's pardoned them, let them out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the immigration thing is just beyond the pale, man. And, I mean, these people are still down there. I mean, still. And it's like, once again, what is the point of having elected office if you cannot get something mobilized quickly? I just don't get it. I just don't get why these, like I said, these Democrats and these government officials are going down there to visit with these people. And it's like, why or how are you not able to get this man out of there that day? Why did he not walk out with you? Why are you allowing them to stay there when you know it's wrong? Why don't you take a stand and have some fucking balls, man? And they won't do it because they're bought and paid for just as well, man. I mean, anything they were doing was a photo op. It was a photo op. They wanted to be, they want to stand beside Jesus and take a couple of pictures real quick while he's up on the cross and be like, well, and they're looking up at him being like, I feel sorry for you, man. Wish I could help you. Then get back in their Rolls Royce and drive to the White House, and then they have this stupid ass narrative of, oh, we're broke, we don't get paid, blah, 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 blah. Of course, on paper, on the books, in the books of the American, payroll of these governors and blah, 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 blah. Of course, they don't get paid, they get paid well enough, but they don't get paid like, super great. But that doesn't include the lobbyist money, the hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars or whatever they're getting from these damn lobbyists. And I mean, I think they should do like a lot of American drug dealers. They should start investigating some of the expenditures of these presidents, these governors and stuff like that, and then holding that against what they make in a year. Okay, this guy makes $60,000 to $80,000 a year and he just bought a $2 million house. How's that even fucking possible? I mean, we're going through the Reformation in this country. We really are. And, I've said it once and I'll say it again. The only silver lining to the Trump administration, if anything, is that it will never happen again. And it can never happen again. And we're going to learn that the hard way, I guess. I guess we're just going to have to fucking sit here. And I mean, once again, they said the other day it was like the first 100 days of this administration. I'm like, Jesus Christ, we got years of this to go. And this is only the first 100 days. And this is kind of like his first administration. It was like every fucking day, it was like the world was burning down. It was like every fucking day some dumb shit was happening. And I'm like, man, after a year or two, you figure somebody would get exhausted. But it's like, no, nothing's happening, And I kind of question the whole administration, and just the coincidence of the pandemic kicking off too. That was just a whole weird thing that's happening. And now that we're kind of in this administration, it's kind of like there's been hints of other epidemics happening in America. Monkeypox and all these other things start just randomly popping up in weird places. And it's just kind of really odd to me that this administration is all of a sudden back in the White House and all of a sudden we got a bunch of damn monkeypox and all this damn 1926 diseases popping off in damn communities. And it's like kind of weird. And then, of course, you put Mr. Measles man himself, freaking RFK, in front of, in charge of all the damn health. And I'm kind of almost waiting at any day now for something to just pop off in America again. It's like COVID-19 or the pandemic again. And I mean, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't know if it's orchestrated or not, but I'm saying it's just kind of weird that all of a sudden some of this stuff happens. And I was thinking about this the other day. Like, you remember when we all of a sudden started having weird aircraft accidents a couple of months back? Like, it just seemed like every day there was just like the aviation industry had lost its goddamn mind. Because it was like there was military helicopters colliding into stuff. There was just stupid accidents happen. And it was just awful coincidental that started happening nationwide. It started happening at a very high frequency when they were reporting on Boeing and Boeing's failures as a company, and basically one of the largest, if not the largest air manufacturer in America. They were reporting on this and talking about how Boeing, failed their safety checks and all this stuff. And next thing you know, all these damn aircraft accidents started happening like almost on a weekly, if not daily basis. And I'm like, what is going on here? Because it's like all of a sudden, these weird accidents just started popping up and happening. And this is coming right on the heels of, once again, them basically dragging Boeing through the damn dirt, and Boeing being shown to be a company that's like, we just don't give a damn about the American consumer. And it doesn't matter if like hundreds, if not thousands of people die on our aircraft. And I'm like, dude, what is, it's weird. That's all I'm saying. But, on the vein of positivity, I got to get back to being positive, even though I'm in the midst of basically the destruction of a building here. You really just got to, once again, be a little light. And I know that whole segment of this conversation wasn't light. But I just want to say, you got to be a little light in somebody's life. Please be a light in somebody's life today. Go out there, spread a little joy, spread a little happiness, no matter what it is. You ain't got to do grand, big gestures, but just little gestures. Tell somebody you love them. Tell somebody they look good. Hug somebody you ain't hugged in a while. Blah, 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 blah. And it's little things like that, that really change the tide of evil and change the tide of hatred and all these other things. And like I said, I'm just living proof of it, because it was little gestures that happened with me in my life, from some very substantial people, that changed my whole world thinking and feelings about certain avenues. And trust me, if it wasn't for these people, I'd be a lot more off the hinges, fanatic, and crazy than I am right now. You know, I'd be a lot more, doom and gloom and stuff like that. But once again, it was just the actions of a handful of people that changed the entire course of my life. So there you go, for what it's worth. Y'all have a great day. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And, please share the video. Thank you so much. You guys take care and love you guys.